Piraeus, a peninsula southwest of Athens, became the city's main port after the politician Themistocles encouraged the development of its natural harbors. These developments led to the gradual abandonment of the older harbor of Phaleron. Piraeus's fortifications were further developed by Cimon and Pericles, along with the long walls which ensured goods could still be moved during sieges. Piraeus was divided into three main sectors: the military port, the Emporion, and the residential area. By the 5th century BCE, it had become not only Athens' naval headquarters, but also the mercantile center of the Mediterranean.
I posted the quest on the ship's board. I have a good feeling about this one.
Welcome back! There's a message for you on the board. Came from the Delos Islands. One of the cultists is there, Cassandra. His name is Portarkis.
You reading my messages, Barnabas?
I may have taken a peek. Did you find what you were looking for in Athens?
A few clues, but this won't be easy.
Well, it's a good start. All we can do now is trust the path the gods have laid out for us.
I'm not the only one looking for my mother. The cult that wanted Nikolaus dead, they're also on my trail.
Ah, they're no match for you.
You got that right.
Piraeus' development during the 5th century BCE attracted a large population. Many craftsmen, merchants, bankers, sailors, and ship owners moved to the port in great numbers. The population was a mix of Greek citizens, foreign visitors, and immigrants known as metics. The variety of the port's inhabitants gave Piraeus a cosmopolitan atmosphere. Most of the residents were involved in trade, but others worked on shipbuilding or in larger-scale industries like shield factories. Piraeus' commercial focus offered many opportunities for those seeking to increase their wealth and status. One such rags-to-riches tale is that of Passion, a slave who eventually became a citizen and earned a fortune thanks to his bank and his shield factory. Piraeus was a demi, or district, of Attica. Because of its size, function, and varied population, it had a much more complicated administrative structure than other demes. Above all, Piraeus was closely monitored and controlled by the Athenian assembly due to its importance to the city. Within the port, there were two separate categories of trade: international trade, which took place in the Emporion, and retail trade, which was managed by Kapoloi in Piraeus' agora. The Emporion was a commercial port dedicated to trading goods from overseas. All international transactions were required to be made within its limits and needed to be exclusively wholesale. Elected magistrates managed all business and laws in the port. Meanwhile, port authorities known as epimeletes oversaw trade and took care of the regulation of prices. This was an especially crucial duty, as the amount of supplies and goods could fluctuate wildly based on factors like bad harvests or lost cargo. Common products sold in the Emporium included vegetables, fruits, fish, leather, timber, marble, metal, weapons, and ceramics. According to Hermippos, Athens was also wealthy enough to afford the finest goods from all over the world, including figs from Rhodes, almonds from Thassos, oil from Samos, and wine from Chios. Taxes were collected on all merchandise that came into the Emporium, which provided Athens with a major source of income. After arriving in the Emporium, merchants set up samples of their goods in a display area called the Daigma. This was where citizens and foreigners gathered to officially make their deals, and almost all merchandise that came into the Emporium was traded within the area. The Daigma was under constant supervision by magistrates who negotiated price control with the importers. they would occasionally give special privileges to those who agreed to sell at lower prices. These privileges ranged from tax exemptions to specially reserved seating in the theatre. Piraeus was a dean, and as such was supervised by a magistrate called the Demarchus. While most demarchoi were chosen locally within their dean, Piraeus was appointed directly by Athens, so the city could better monitor its commercial interests. In fact, matters regarding the Emporion, the military harbour, and the grain trade were regularly debated and decided by the Athenian assembly. Transactions within the Piraeus were supervised by metronomoi. These were magistrates responsible for keeping track of weights and measures. They made sure merchants' measurements were always accurate to prevent bad deals and scams. Even though Piraeus would eventually develop into a city in its own right, it always remained under the control of Athens. A commercial tax of 2%, or a pentecost, was placed on all cargo entering and leaving Piraeus. The tax was collected by a group of 5 people called Pentekostologoi. According to Andocides, this position could be bought for the hefty sum of 30 talents, or 180,000 drachmae. However, most of these officials made a profit of up to 6 talents, making the job very lucrative. While merchants were responsible for setting the value of their goods, Pentekostologoi had the power to challenge the value if they saw fit. Furthermore, merchants were required to register with these officials before they could transport, display, and sell their goods. Overall, this system provided Piraeus, and by extension Athens, with a tremendous amount of money. The sale of grain was overseen by special magistrates called sitophilakes. Since some Greek cities had a grain deficiency and relied heavily on imports, these officials were extremely important. Their duties encompassed all aspects of grain commerce, including price control and profit margins, to ensure Athens remained well-fed. This is no surprise. Grain was so important to Athens that 2/3 of all stocks were required to be transported and sold at the city's agora by law. According to Demosthenes, the significance of the sitophilakes was such that if they failed in their duties, they faced the death penalty. The Emporion operated on a foundation of credit and loans. Overseas commerce was handled by 2 types of tradespeople. Emporoi transported cargo in borrowed ships, while naukleroi were ship owners who moved goods on their own vessels. Elsewhere in the Emporion were bankers and accountants who arranged loans and kept track of incoming and outgoing ships. Emporoi and naukleroi financed their maritime voyages with these loans, which often had a high interest rate due to the dangers of sea travel. Emporoi used the loans to pay for both the cargo and the right to a ship, while naukleroi only had to pay for their crew. Loans and interest were repaid upon a ship's return to port. However, in the event of a catastrophe such as a shipwreck, the merchant and ship owner were released from their obligations, and the losses were transferred to the lender.
You've returned. I hope you enjoyed your stroll through the port. Piraeus was important to Athens' commercial interests, but it eventually came into its own as a vibrant and bustling port. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. If you say so, let us see what you've learned, Wanderer. First, a simple question. Which Athenian politician originally encouraged the development of Piraeus' natural harbors? Correct! Themistocles saw Piraeus' potential as a port and encouraged its development. On to the next question. What did the sitophilakes supervise? It was Metronomi who were in charge of Pirev's weights and measures. Try again. Yes, Sidophilakes had the extremely important responsibility of handling all matters related to grain commerce. Only one question left. What was the name of the slave who took advantage of Pirev's opportunities to earn themselves citizenship? Correct! Basion managed to earn a fortune and achieve citizenship thanks to both his bank and a successful shield business. Your knowledge of Pirefs is impressive. Well done, Wanderer. As you wish. Thank you for visiting.
Ah, the Delos Islands. Two sides of the same coin. Delos, sacred birthplace of Artemis and Apollo. And Mykonos, where people do everything that's forbidden on Delos.
Read me the note again.
Eagle-bearing Nistios. That's you. Otharkis, cruel leader of Delos Islands, takes money from our pockets and food from our mouths, all to feed his
Insatiable.
Yes! His insatiable thirst for power.
Odarkis is one of them, Barnabas. The ones hunting my family. Keep reading.
We are a modest but fierce group of rebels who'd pay you handsomely to help us overthrow our vile oppressor. I pray the winds guide you swiftly to our shores, Mystios. Our people are dying. Signed, Kira.
We arrived just in time to help.
You see, Poseidon wasn't trying to drown you. He was getting you where you needed to go. Aggressive.
Does the note say where Kira is?
There are two locations marked. A camp along the northwestern coast and a hideout that looks like it's underneath the city.
Odarkis sounds like a cruel man.
He's worse. I once heard a family was late in paying their dues to the gods. Otharkis sent his men to their farm and took the young ones from their beds. When their mater and pater woke up to feed the animals, they discovered the animals were already feeding on the corpses of their sons.
The sooner I send this monster to Hades, the better.
Even Hades would shudder in his presence.
This place seems nice.
This island has a giant history, my friend.
We don't have time, Barnabas.
I meant Mykonos literally has a history involving giants. Apollo was once friends with Hyperboreans from the snowy north, until one day they sent 2 maidens and 5 of their men to Delos with offerings for the son of Zeus. They were never seen again.
And Mykonos?
The island itself was built from the corpses of giants slain by the legendary Heracles.
My mind wandered. Remind me what the note said?
Eagle-bearing
The
Mystios.
short version, please.
Otharkis, cruel leader, thirst for power, pay you handsomely, rebellion, people die.
It's time I met with this Kira.
I'll have the ship ready in case we need any immediate departures.
That was Kefalonia, and that was mostly your fault.
Here, Cassandra.
Here, Barnabas.